All right, hey guys, Josh Beecraft here. I'm excited to have you on another issue of the 2mm Shift. I got a quick question for you. Why did the business networker bring a ladder to the event? Yeah, because he wanted to take their connections to the next level. It's so ridiculous. Like, I'm going to keep doing these AI jokes because I think they're just hilariously awful. And if you guys hate them, just let me know. But I think they're kind of cheesy and funny and fun to do. So anyways, let's talk about the real thing we're going to talk about today. Obviously, we're going to talk about networking, right? I want to tell you a quick story. So I went on a cruise last year. And this was a really well-known cruise in my industry. You know, it's been going on for decades, and it's just a really big deal. And all of the who's who in my industry is supposed to be there. And a lot of them were. And I'm about to tell a story here. And the first thing I want to say is, before I tell the story, it was a fantastic time. I loved all the people that I got to meet. I loved hanging out with some of them. I made great connections. Got to spend really good time with some really key players. And we're even doing business because of it, right? So it was a very good experience. And I recommend anybody go to it. But I want to tell you part of the experience that I had that illustrates the problem with networking today, particularly at networking events, but really networking in general. And I remember as soon as I got on the ship, I saw somebody that I knew. They introduced me to another person, and the person goes, "Oh, I've heard so much about you. I'd really like to sit down and have lunch or dinner." And then they proceeded to just start telling me everything they were doing. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. They're excited about what they're doing. They're excited about their product and the future they have and the vision and all of this stuff. But I just walked on the ship, right? And there was no way for me to get a word in edgewise. You know, as the week went on for the cruise, like, there was a couple more times where we met up and it was the same conversation again. Like, "Hey, I heard a lot about you. Really like to sit down for dinner or whatnot." And then they just proceeded to tell me all the stuff. And it got to the point where I was like, I'm not even in the conversation. Right? Like, I'm not even here. Like, there's no value to me. Like, I feel like there's all these people I could be talking to, and my time's sort of being wasted just listening to this person pitch me on stuff. And unfortunately, there was a lot of this that was going on this particular cruise. You know, there was maybe one or two people particular that it happened a number of times, but like, it happened so many times in some variation of that I was like, actually staying away from people, right? Like, it was kind of weird where I was that put off. Like, man, I could go being engaged in like some really high level conversation that I'm really enjoying, or just like listen to people pitch me on stuff. And it's an unfortunate sort of, it's an unfortunate evil of the networking world and doing business. So like, you know, people that just start their business, they get excited about it. And what's the first thing they want to do? They want to tell people, right? Well, that makes perfect sense. There's nothing wrong with that. So where do you go tell people? Well, if I want to do business, I better go to places where business is done and network with other business people and like have these conversations, right? What ends up happening though is they end up doing a lot of pitching and not a lot of networking, right? You have to understand the point of this. And I'm going to give you a trick on how to avoid not only being this person, but also being in that situation. And it's a really simple tactic. I've taught this for years. It was one of the first kind of 2mm shifts, if you will, that I learned a long time ago. And it's so simple. Like, you're going to love it when you hear it. But the big thing to remember is that these people aren't bad. They're not wasting your time. They're not out there doing anything other than trying to get the word out about something they're passionate about. So sometimes in the moment, I get a little judgmental about it and frustrated. And then, you know, like I said, I stayed away from them on the ship. And it's because it can have this effect. So how do you solve it, right? I've left you hanging long enough. How do you solve this? It's very simple, but it's going to take a little bit of self-discipline on your part, because if you go to a networking event, you want to talk about your stuff, right? Well, here's the trick. Don't talk about your stuff. I know. You're going to go, well, what's the point in going to a networking event if I can't let people know what I'm doing? It's a fair question, and here's what I mean. Let's just really unpack this. At most networking events, let's say it's a BNI group, right? You're going to have the opportunity to do your commercial, to let people know what you're about. Perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. You have to talk about your stuff there, right? So I want to make sure you guys don't get confused on this. What I'm really talking about more than anything is when you go network with a group of people and you're moving around the room, you guys are maybe having drinks or there's lunch or something like that, or maybe it's before the BNI meeting, you're talking to people before the formalities. The goal is to never talk about yourself. Okay. What you do is you continually double down on getting other people to talk about themselves. Here's the psychology on this that's really interesting. Who in somebody's personal life, who do they trust the most to tell their biggest secrets? Right? It's people closest to them, right? Now, you're not going to get people to tell their biggest secrets, but one sort of notch down from that is to communicate about things very personal to them, right? And the only way that happens is if they're provoked in a certain way, right? So here's how a conversation might go meeting up with somebody like, oh, hi, your name's Susan? Great, my name's Josh. Nice to meet you. Susan, tell me a little bit about what you do. And Susan would be like, I do X, Y, Z, this and that. I'm like, oh, great. Well, how'd you get started there? Oh, there was this thing and, I was getting married to my husband. Oh, you're married? Do you have children or pets or anything? Like, you just stay interested in them. And there's another, I learned a better way to frame this later on in my career. It's to be interested, not interesting. You're not trying to get people to be interested in you, you're being interested in them. And there's a very simple reason why. When somebody sees that you're interested in them, for one, they feel seen, they feel heard, they build connection because of that. And the other point of it has to do with, the way I like to think about it is data rate. The amount of data that they're delivering to you in a short period of time, they know that is an output from themselves and that you're receiving it. When somebody gives that much output of themselves to another person, who is that usually in their life? It's usually somebody close to them, somebody they're connected to. So what happens is this little connection happens in the brain and goes, I just told this person my life story, and now we're connected, right? It's that simple. So what ends up happening is they realize they've talked about themselves a whole lot, and because of that, they like you. You don't talk to people you don't like, right? So they've talked to you a whole lot, and at some point they'll realize, go, oh my gosh, I haven't asked what you do. Now this is a really important context. When somebody asks what you do, they're interested in the answer, right? So now you can actually talk about it where they care. You're not going to sit there going, oh, I can't believe I'm sitting here in this conversation. I didn't ask. I'm not interested, right? They're going to be interested, and they're going to want to know about you because they just felt this connection to you. I know that sounds like maybe a little over the top in terms of they felt this connection and it's, this psychology of they're spilling all this information, but trust me on this. This is how connection is built. This is how networking takes you to another level. You get interested in other people and you stop trying to be interesting enough for them to be interested in you, because they will, once they get it all out of their system, once they put all of their cards on the table, they will ask you about yours. And because they put it all out there and they built a connection, when you do stand up and do your 30-second commercial or whatever in the networking groups, they're going to listen to you differently. And they're going to go, oh, wow, that's what he does. Oh, that's really interesting. So cool. And then all you have to do is remember those conversations and follow up with those people. I'm going to give you a way that this works that is an example of how this works. It's out of this world, right? If the media says a lot of things about Donald Trump, and I'm not here to get political about anything. I just want to illustrate this. Media says a lot of things about Donald Trump, but if you listen to anybody that is close to him, there's a universal story that they all tell. And they say, I was so surprised because here's this guy doing all this stuff. He's this larger-than-life character. And the first thing he asks me is about my family and my kids and how everybody's doing, and make sure to take the time to be interested in them, right? And if you wonder why he's amassed the following that he has, apart from any politics, it's because he uses the same strategy. He does a lot of things to be interested and not be interesting. And that might be weird for you to think about because you see him out there doesn't he do a bunch of things to be interesting? Well, of course he does at a different level, right? At a public level, for sure. That's marketing. At a personal level, it's a different thing. And it builds business better than anything else I've ever seen in the world. You really want the magic button to get to do business with somebody that you think would help your business a long ways? You find out what their kids are in love with. And you find out by asking them. You're not doing any creepy stuff in the background. Don't do that. Maybe if you pay attention to them on Facebook or something and you see that the kid played in a sports game and won something, you might bring that up, right? That's totally fine. That's what social media is for, is that socializing via media, right? But you can do it through conversation, right? Oh, tell me more about your kids. It sounds like you're really proud of them. Oh, yeah, you wouldn't believe it. He's going to go to this college and, he's playing on this game and blah, 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 blah. You go, oh, great. And you really want to get in with those people? You find a way to make their kids' life easier in a way that they can't. Trust me on this. If you happen to have a connection at that college or a connection for somebody that could help them with football if they play football, like whatever it is, you offer that up and you offer to invest your resources into the thing they care the most about. Often it's their children. If it's not children because, children are grown or they never had children or whatever, maybe it's a pet, maybe it's a mission, maybe it's something else. But if you invest in the thing they love the most, you will blow past so many filters because you're not coming in asking for anything. You're not coming in trying to be the savior with your product or service. You're coming in trying to be a human that's being helpful and giving of your time and resources, and they will immediately respect that and return it to you. So that's it. Be interested, not interesting, and focus on them. Get them to talk about themselves, and don't worry about pitching your stuff. You will have your opportunity. It will come up. It will be clear and obvious, and you'll have the know, like, and trust of the person before they ever even consider your product, which makes you many, many times more likely to get it sold. So that's what we got. I'll see you guys on the next issue. Take care now.